Hello guys, and welcome to another project where we are going to build a fully functioning MERN stack blog application using MongoDB, Express, React, and Node.js. Now this is going to be a very in-depth tutorial, so if you are very new to MERN stack, this is going to be the perfect video for you to understand everything that goes on, how everything communicates. For the old subscribers, you may be familiar with this project because I created a similar project using PHP last year, and there's even an improved version of that. We are going to create everything from scratch using the MERN stack. Now, by the end of this video, you should be able to know some best practices when it comes to creating MERN stack applications. We are going to have some authentication on the page. Users can sign up, sign in. Their tokens are going to be saved in local storage and all that. Okay, some really cool stuff. And also you are going to learn some best practices when it comes to CSS, some tips and tricks, okay, using the CSS variables and all that. And as you can see, this website is going to be very mobile responsive, and I'll just stop talking and then walk you through the finished project. So this is the home page of the blog application that we are going to create. And as you can see, we have a navbar with some links. This brings us to the authors page, which shows all the registered users. Okay, so if you register an account, you automatically become an author. You can go ahead and increase your own post and all that. We have the login page. You can sign up and all that. We are going to explore that in a minute, but let's see what we have on the home page, right? So as you can see, we have some articles by the authors, and each article has a thumbnail, a title, a body, the author, and then the category this particular article or post belongs to, right? Now we can click and then read more about the post. Okay, so you click on the title and then it brings you to the detailed page of the post so that you can read more. We can go back. Let me actually exit full screen, and we can click the author of the post, and that brings us to this page where we can see more posts from that user, right? We can also click the category to see more posts that belongs to that same category. So we have one by Ernest Achiever, we have Mahama, and then we have Hajia Bintu, right? So they all have created posts in this category, right? Of course, we can click to read more. And even here, we can also click the links of the authors, okay, to see more posts from them. Down here, as you can see, we have our footer section with all the categories that we have, and we can of course click on any of them to see more posts that belongs to any of these categories. And there is no post for the entertainment category. That's why we have this message. We have investment with one post, we have weather with no posts. Let's go to art with 2 posts, and that's how it works, okay? And this is very simple. All right, let's get to the authors page, and we can also click any of these. Okay, these are all links. We can click any of these to see more posts from any of the authors. So we have an achiever with 3 posts, right? So we can of course click to read more. Just click the title and then you read more about any of the posts, right? And of course, Jendo has 0 posts, as you can see, and it's Achiever 3 posts, Nanado 2 posts, of course, and then 112, right? Perfect. All right, now let's get to the login page and then see what we can do. I'm actually going to log in as let's see, as Hajia Bintu. She has 2 posts, right? So let's go on Hajia, come on, gmail.com. That's the email. And we have some authentication checks. So if this password is not correct, okay, so if I should click to log in, it's going to give me invalid credentials, right? Now if I should enter the correct password and then click login again, I'm actually logged in, right, with the correct credentials. So, okay, so we can check out our profile. We can even change our details here and all that. We are going to explore that in a minute, but let's come back and let me actually delete one post, or let me first edit one post that belongs to Hajia Bintu. Okay, I can actually come back to my profile and then click this link, my post, and it's going to show all of my posts. In this case, I have only 2 posts. I can view them individually, as you can see here. I can edit them. Okay, so with this, let me actually, you know what, I'm going to open this in a new tab just so we can see what is happening. Of course, once I edit it, it's going to take me to the home page so that I can see what's going on. But you know, let me just say this post has, come on, been edited. All right, I'm going to change the category to business. Okay, I don't need to add a thumbnail in this case. Okay, that's how I coded it. I don't need to add a thumbnail, but I can add a thumbnail if I want. Okay, now let's update this post. And of course, this post has been edited. It's a new title, right? And we kept the thumbnail. Okay, right. It should work here as well. I just wanted you to see that everything is live, of course. Now let's go ahead and change the thumbnail this time. Okay, so since I'm logged in as Hajia Bintu and this is my post, once I click this, that's the title, it's going to give me these 2 buttons. Okay, these 2 action buttons to edit or delete this post, right? And in this case, I'm going to actually edit it with a thumbnail, a different thumbnail. And the category, I'm going to keep it at business. And let's change this back to, this is edited again. Okay, and this time I'm going to choose a different, this should be related to business. You know what, let me just should I, let me use this, and then I'm going to update, and as you can see, we have it. Okay, so this is edited again. That was the title, and the category is now business, and as you can see, the thumbnail is also changed, right? Of course, I can go ahead and delete it as well. So let's click and then delete this post, and it's gone. Great. So if you come to authors, Hajia Bintu has only 1 post now, which is cool. Now if I come back here, go to my posts or view my posts, I can only see this one. That's the only post I have. Cool. Now I'm going to log out and then create a new user. Okay, let's call this person John Doe. That's going to be John, come on, at gmail.com. And for the password, I'm going to do John123 and John123. Now what? I'm going to make a mistake here by adding 4 for the confirmed password. And since these do not match, let's see what happens. We get passwords do not match. And if I should do Hajia at gmail.com, let's see what happens. And did I change this? Let's see. So this should be John123, right? So now the passwords match, but the email already exists. Okay, so let's see what happens. We get email already exists. Okay, so we have some authentication functionalities that we are going to integrate. Okay, and I'm not going to use any third-party package or anything like that. We are going to do everything by ourselves, at least the bare minimum, right? So let's change the email to john@gmail.com, which does not exist. Okay, so if I should hit register, I am registered. Okay, and I've been redirected here to login. So john@gmail.com. As I said, we have some authentication. So fill in all fields. The password John, which is not correct, I hit and I get incorrect credentials. So the password, the actual password is John123. I hit it and then I'm logged in, which is really, really cool. Now, since I'm logged in, of course, I can do everything that I want. So that's the CRUD functionality. And of course, I can go to my page. I don't have any profile. So let's go ahead and then upload a profile for John Doe. Okay. And let's use this. And then I'm going to hit this. And I have a profile. Cool. I have no post yet. So let's go ahead and then create a new post. Let me come to this page, lorem ipsum. Okay. To grab some dummy text. And copy this for the body, paste it, and I'm going to use this for the title. The category, let me make this education, and then I'm going to use this, okay, the chameleon or whatever it is. All right, before that, let me actually remove the title. We have some checks here as well, right? So I'm going to hit create and fill in all fields. Okay, I don't have a title, right? So once we have everything set, I'm going to go ahead and then hit create. As you can see here as well, we have WYSIWYG editor here as well, which let me try that. Okay, let's use that. We can use the italic, bold, and all that, right? But then we have everything set, so we can go ahead and then hit create, and our post should be live. Okay, so we have John Doe, and as you can see, we have the timestamp for each of the posts. So this was just created. That's why we have just now. And of course, we can hit it to read more. And since we are the author of the post, we have the edit and then the delete. Okay, so let's go ahead and edit this. You know, what do I even use? You know what, I'm just going to say this is okay, just some dummy stuff too. I don't want to think right now. Okay, so I'm going to change this to agriculture, and I don't need to have a thumbnail when I'm editing. Okay, so let's hit it, and now we have it. It's edited. Okay, and we can go ahead and then add a thumbnail or change the thumbnail. So you know what, this should be uncategorized. And for the title, I'm going to use this, and this time this is going to be my thumbnail. Okay, so let's update, and we have this. Okay, so everything is working exactly as expected. And you know what, let me actually delete this post from here. Okay, so we can come to our profile, go to my posts, and then we can perform some actions here as well. Okay, so I can hit delete, and the post should be deleted. Okay, so if I come back, I don't have any posts as John Doe. Okay, let's go to authors. We have John Doe, all right, but with 0 posts. All right, and all these are going to persist in our MongoDB database. So yeah, everything is going to be perfect. Okay, and I may have forgotten some features to show you in this short demo, but of course we are going to integrate everything. Okay, everything is going to be perfect. I'm going to show you how to do everything. All right, and we have a lot to do, so let's get started. Let's go ahead and set up our hosting and domain name. And having used or having worked with many hosting providers, the one that I always recommend for everyone is Hostinga. Now in the description of this video, you are going to find a link that's probably the first link that's going to bring you to this page. And that's an affiliate link that's going to give you the best deal for your hosting purchase. Okay, so go ahead and then click that link. That's going to bring you to this page. And if you visit this page and the design is a little different, that's because it changes from time to time, right? So this Hostinga, let's go ahead and then check out some of the hosting web hosting packages that they have. And right here is their premium shared hosting. Okay, so for only $2.80 per month, you are going to have, or you are going to be able to host 100 websites. They give you 100 gigabytes of SSD storage, as you can see here. Free weekly backups. They give you free domain name. How cool is that? For most of the hosting providers, you actually buy the domain name separately. Okay, here they give you a free domain name, and a free email as well. So they give you a bunch of other stuff that are very cool and very helpful as well. Right, so this is a perfect deal for me. I'm going to go ahead and then click add to carts, and as I said, make sure you use the link in the description to get the best deal on Hostinger. All right, so this is very affordable, so I'm going to go ahead and then use the 48 months. Okay, and that's going to give me the best deal. And right here, I'm going to go ahead and then enter my email. Right, so that's my email. I'm going to use PayPal. As you can see, my total is $133. Okay, now I have a coupon for you. Okay, and this is the best coupon on Hostinger. Go ahead and enter the coupon code EGATO. Okay, that's right here. Enter that and apply and see what you get. You get 10% discount. So that is a very cool deal, and this is a very reliable hosting. That is why I went ahead and then got you this very important deal. All right, so we are going to go ahead and submit our secure payment. All right, so after the payment, make sure you check out your email to finish up everything, confirm your email and all that. And right here, I'm going to go ahead and then log in. So right here, I just logged in, and I'm going to go ahead. As I said, they give you a free domain name, so you can go ahead and then claim the domain, okay, which is really cool. On most platforms or with most hosting providers, you actually have to buy the domain name separately, which will cost you probably $10 or more, right? So the domain name I'm going to buy is Dami Egator, and I'm going to use the .com. Okay, so let me quickly check if this is actually available, and it is. Okay, so let's go ahead. As you can see here, that would cost me $14, but here they are giving it for me. They're giving it to me for free, which is really cool. Let's go ahead and then claim this domain name. Yeah, I forgot to mention, but they give us a free SSL as well, so let's go ahead and install that. Yep, and that's installing, and that's going to make sure every traffic on the website is secure. All right, so now let's proceed to work on the project. Let's go ahead and then create our project. I'm going to call this MERN blog. You can call it whatever you like, of course. Right, so I'm going to open this with VS Code. That's the text editor I'm going to use. And I'm going to do Control Backtick to open the integrated terminal in VS Code. All right, now we are going to start with the client or the front end, that is React, and we are going to use create React app to create this React application. In the next project, we are actually going to use Vite, which is faster, but for this one we are going old school. Okay, so let's do npx create React app and call this client. Okay, that's going to be our front end. All right, so our React app is being created. We have happy hacking, that means everything is set. Okay, so let's cd into our client. All right, we can even see everything here, right? So source, we can see everything. We have our HTML file. I'm going to clean this up real soon. Let me actually make this bigger. Okay, but before I clean up, let's do npm start to see what we have and make sure we don't have any problems. Right, everything is looking great, so we can proceed to clean up the files that we do not need. Okay, so let me get everything out of here, and in our HTML file, which is the only HTML file that we need for this project, I'm going to remove all these comments, right, and the manifest link as well. Let me change this title to MERN stack app. Okay, so MERN stack blog app, and I'm going to remove these comments, and that should be it. Okay, can close this, come to our source, and in the source I'm going to remove all these except for the index CSS and then the index JS. Okay, so I'm going to delete all these files. Perfect. Now in the index.js, I'm going to get rid of these and these. Oh, come on. Right here. Get rid of these. And of course, we don't have the app. So for now, let's just do h1. Hello world. All right, let's save and see what we have. We have hello world. Now in the CSS, of course, we have some styles here. Let's remove them so that we can start on a clean slate. All right, so you should have this. Okay, and that's where our project starts. All right, now we could go ahead and install all the packages that we need for the React app, that is the front end, but I want to install them as we go along. Okay, so that you know when we need any package, like you know why we need any package in case we come across any problem that package is going to solve. But first and first, let's go ahead and then create the pages that we need for the whole app so that we can have the full structure down. Okay, so I'm going to have a file. First, let me create a folder and then a file of home.jsx. I'm going to do rfce, and that's going to give me this function, an arrow function right here. Okay, you know what? And the rafce that I did, it worked because I have this extension which you probably know of, so I think we can just go ahead. Okay, so it just helps me with the shortcuts. All right, so we have home. What else do we need? We are going to have author posts, .jsx. The next is going to be authors.jsx, rafce, category post.jsx, rafce, create posts.jsx, rafce, dashboard.jsx, rafce, delete post.jsx, rafce, edit post, post.jsx, rafce. And for the naming of the files, you can see I'm using the Pascal casing, okay, which you don't need to do it like this, but I prefer it this way, right? The next is going to be error page.jsx. That's going to be our 404 page. I'm going to do rfce. Did I do okay? Yeah, good. All right, next we are going to have our login page. We will have logout.jsx, rfce. We will have post detail. That's the single post page, right? rfce. And let's see, let's have register.jsx, rfce. And lastly, we have user profile. Okay, so user profile.jsx, rafce. Now, of course, some of these files may not really make sense, but as we develop everything, we're going to understand them. Okay. All right, so Control W to close all these files, and we come back to these two. Right, so let's go ahead and then install cd client. We are going to install React Router DOM. So npm I React Router DOM. You can add -- save to make sure it's actually included in the packet.json, right? Okay, so it's installed, and our dependencies for it, right? So we have React Router DOM right here. Perfect. Right, so we can go ahead and then create all our routing in here. That's the index.js. Before we work on our routes, I'm going to have our components folder, and then inside this I'm going to have a layout component. Okay, so component and then that's the folder. I'm going to have layout.jsx, which is the file, right? The component. So this component is going to wrap around everything on the page. Okay, we are going to have our header, our footer, and then in between that we are going to have our children prop, right? So let me actually do that right now. I'm going to have a header component, header.jsx. I'm going to do RAFCE, and let's have our footer as well. So footer.jsx, RAFCE, right? We have both. Now in here, as I said, let me actually wrap this in a React fragment and have a header, which is the component we just created. And as you can see, it's automatically imported, okay, using an extension called path intelligence, right? And we are going to have our footer as well, footer.jsx imported. Up here, I'm going to import, I like this to come before. I'm going to import outlet from React router, okay, so React router DOM, and that's going to be here. That's going to be the dynamic part of our application. All right, so let's come back to our index.js so that we can create our routes. All right, so with React router 6, this is how we are going to go about it. We are going to have a constant called router. You can name it whatever you want, and then we are going to use the create browser router, which is coming from React router DOM. Okay, we are going to have an array inside of that, which is going to have the different routes that we need. First off, we are going to have the home, which is the slash, and actually let me make this more beautiful. So path, and the element, okay, the component that renders when we get to this path is going to be the layout. Now it's going to have error element as well, which is going to be the 404 page in case somebody enters a route that doesn't exist. This error element, which is the component that you assign to this, is going to render, okay, it's going to be saved to that unexisting path, right? So that's going to be this component, that's the error page, right? And you should make sure that is imported, and it wasn't able to import, so let me do that manually. So we import error page from, that's inside our pages, error page. You know what, we don't need this children prop, okay, the outlet handles everything. All right, so let's come back here and then have our children prop, and in here, you know what, let's try what we have so far. We should have a router provider, which is coming from React router DOM, and this component should have a prop called router, and then we are going to assign the routes that we created. Okay, we are going to assign that as the value to this prop. All right, so we come back to our page, and of course we have our layout, which is what wraps around everything on the page. So as you can see, we have the header, the footer. Now for the outlet, we don't have any route in the children prop. That's why we don't have any outlets. Okay, so let's go ahead and then first let's have our index. So that's going to be our home page. The element is going to be home, and that's going to be our index page. All right, if I come back, we have home as well, right? Down the next one, posts with ID. So that's going to be the post detail. These have to be imported automatically for me, so I don't know why I have to do it by myself. Let's see. Interesting. All right, so let's do it. So post in detail, register. That's going to be our sign up page. That's going to be register for the path, and the component is going to be register. Come on, this should be path. And we should have our login element is going to be the login component. Of course, we should make sure the login component is brought in. The next is going to be profile ID. So that's going to be user profile. The next is going to be authors create. That's where we create post. I hate to do this by myself, man. Create post, post ID, edit post, and duplicate this a few more times again. Okay, so log out, the logout component. Perfect. All right, so now these are all the parts that we need, or the routes that we need for our whole application. Okay, so if we come back here and authors is not defined. Okay, so let's bring that in quickly. Right, so now if we go to the register page, we should have register here. Okay, now notice the header and then the footer are going to be everywhere since the layout has it, right? Since the layout has the header and the footer, but everything else is in between that. So yeah, that's basically it. Now we can go to, login. We have the login components rendered in between that. We can go to create, which is the create post page. Now if you go to a route that doesn't exist, we get the error page, right? Which is the 404 page. This error element renders the error page right here. Okay, we are going to make it better, but for now we can start with the header, okay, so that we have the full structure of the page. All right, so let's get to the header. After this, we're going to deal with the footer, and then we'll deal with the 404 page, the basic structure of the application. Now for this header, let's have a nav tag, and in here we are going to have a div with a class of container, which is a general class. We are going to write that when we get to the CSS, and another class which is going to be specific to this navbar, and that's going to be nav container. Now let's have a logo. Now our logo is going to be a link, or it's going to be inside of a link, so that on click of that, it brings us to the home page, right? So let's import link component from React router. So we import link. Come on, this should be, yeah, link right here, and this is going to go to the home page, as I said, and inside here is where we are going to have our image. Now let me actually give this a class of nav logo, and then we'll have the image, right? Okay, now I'm going to bring in some assets. Okay, so right here you can see I have these images, and I'm going to leave a link to this so that you can use them in the practice. Okay, so I want you to follow along. Now I'm going to paste this in the source, and yeah, we have the images here. Now when I scroll down, you're going to see that we have logo.png, which is what we are going to use, right? And that's pretty big, but we are going to use CSS to style it. All right, so let's import logo from, let's go back up into images and then logo.png. Okay, so that is going to be our source, and let's just say Navbar logo for the alt. A sibling of the link, which is the logo link, is going to be a UL. Okay, and let's actually give that a class of nav menu, and we are going to have our list items. Each is also going to have a link inside of it. The first link is going to go to profile. For now, let's just have a random name there, right? And I'm going to duplicate this a few more times. The next link is going to go to create, so /create, where is going to take us to the create post page, right? So create post is going to be the caption. We will have authors, and that should take us to a list of all the authors or the users of the page. And lastly, we are going to have logout. Okay, so in this case, I'm assuming that we already logged in. Okay, we have an account and we logged in. So these are the links that are going to show up. Later in the video, we are going to check if the user is actually logged in, and depending on that, we know which links to show and then which ones to hide, right? But for now, we are going to assume that the user is actually logged in. A sibling of the unadded list is going to be a button with a class name of nav toggle btn, and this is going to have an icon. Okay, now I didn't show you in the demo, but this website or this app is fully responsive. Okay, so on mobile phones we want to have that big icon that we can click on to show these menus, right? So that is what we are going to have, and of course we have to install React icons. You have to bring in React. You have to install React icons real quick so that we can use these icons. And for React icons, you can go to this website to search for the icons that you want. One big icon or bar, you know. Okay, it is installed, so you just search whatever icon that you want. You click on it, it's going to copy to the clipboard, and then you can go ahead and then use it, right? So I have the icons that I want, and the first one is going to be FA bars from React icons /FA, and the second one AI outline close from React icons /AI. Okay, so these are the two icons, and of course we are going to have some logic to know which one to show, but for now we are just going to have one. Okay, so AI, good, and that is it for our header. Okay, so if we come back to our project, okay, so the image is too big, and that is why we have this overflow. Okay, the image is too big, and we are going to resize it real quick, right? So let's get to the CSS part of this video. All right, so we should make sure the CSS is linked to our project, and that should be in the index, right? Index.js and the CSS. Yeah, we have the CSS here. Good. Okay, so let's get to the CSS, and to make sure we see everything on the page, I'm going to right away resize our nav logo. Okay, I'm going to give it a width of 3 rem so that we see everything on the page. And of course, let me target the image. So every image, I'm going to have some adjustments, but for now I just want to See, everything should be displayed. Every image should be displayed. Block object fit of cover and width of 100% of its parent. Okay, and this is not too bad, I guess. I'm going to display the link block as well, and that should solve the problem. Okay, so now this is what we have. Okay, I just want us to see everything on the page. Perfect. So we have our links and all that coming from the header. Now I actually don't like this font. Okay, I don't like it. So let's go to Google Fonts to grab some better fonts from here. Now I'm going to search for Poppins, and yeah, this is what we're going to use. So I'm going to grab from the light, the regular, medium, semi-bold, and then bold. Right, let me actually grab the extra bold as well, and I'm going to import it into my CSS. So since we are going to have only one CSS file, it makes more sense to import it in the CSS, right? And that's going to be way up top. So I paste that, I save, come back to our project. Nothing happens because we are not using it. All right, so let's target our body, and the font family is going to be Poppins, and the backup is going to be sans serif, any sans serif fonts. All right, so that changes. Okay, now we are going to use CSS variables. Okay, so I'm going to paste some variables which are going to be the root variables. That means we can use them anywhere in the page, okay, anywhere in our project. So to declare a CSS variable, we can do color primary, and for instance give it a hex code of 6F6AF8. So there's an example of a CSS variable, and that means wherever you use this variable, this color is going to take effect, right? And in the future, if you want to change, all the elements that has this color, you can just make the adjustment here, change the color here, and then all the elements that uses this variable is going to be updated to the new color. All right, so I'm going to just bring in all the variables that we need. Just going to paste them here. Perfect. So we have primary color, we have color white, which is FFF, we have red, we have all that. Okay, so these are the colors that we are going to need. You can see that we have color for the background as well. We have transition. I want every transition to be the same style. That is why I have it as a variable here. We have the width of the container for different media queries. We have some border radius for our cards and all that. So these are the variables that we need. Okay, good. Now let's proceed, and I'm going to target every element on the page. Okay, I could also target the before and after, but let's just okay. And let's zero out every margin. If we come back to our project, you can see that we have some margins, some paddings and all that, right? We have some bullets, some underlines. We don't need that. You can see that we have some borders with the button as well, which I want to reset to 0. So the paddings is going to be 0 as well. The border is going to be 0. Outline is going to be 0. And most importantly, I'm going to have box sizing set to border box, right? So that everything fits its container. But for now, let's proceed, and on the body, I'm going to have some more styles. So let's actually give this a background of the variable color bg. Okay, so we save, and we have a slightly gray background. Right, let's change the font size to be 0.9 rem, and let's do color So every text color is going to be color gray 700. Now this is not going to take effect for the links. So if you come back, of course the links really don't change, but we are going to target the links separately so that we can give it some more styles. Let me have some more space here. You know, these are specific to, you know what, let me bring this up. That's the images. The image or the IMG style is a general style, so I want to bring it up. Now from the body, let's target every link and give them a color of the color gray 700. I'm going to give them a text decoration of none. So in that case, we remove the underline. All right, let's target the unadded lists and give them a list style of none. Okay, in that case, every bullet is going to vanish. They are not going to have any bullets, right? I don't think you can see them because of the padding that we removed. So if I showed comment out the padding, you can see we still had the bullets, right? But this removes all the bullets, as you can see. And now we can bring the padding back to 0 again, right here. Perfect. So now, of course, there's not going to be a CSS tutorial, but for the beginning, like for now, I'm going to take time to explain some stuff. But as we move on, I'm just going to paste some of the code so that we can speed things up. Okay, now let's have some styling for our headings. Okay, so every h1, h2, h3, h4, h5, and h6 should have a color of color gray 900, which is the darkest color that I have in the variables, and the line height is going to be 1.1. Now let's target them individually. So h1 should have a font size of 2.2 rem. h2 should have, let me duplicate this. So this is going to be h2 should have a font size of 1.9 rem. h3 should have a font size of 1.3 rem, and the line height here is going to be 1.25. right? Save. Of course we don't have any headings here, but of course they are going to this should be h3, but of course they are going to take effect as we proceed. Right, let's have h4 font size of 1.1 rem, and lastly h5 font size of, actually I'm just going to change the line height here to 1.4 rem. Perfect. 1.4, no unit. Let's use a few more minutes to have some more styles that are going to be general. So let's target every section on the page and then give them a margin top of 6 rem. And I'm going to make reference to these styles once we start having the tags in the React, okay, so that you see how it is working with the CSS. But for now, let's just proceed. All right, now remember we had a general container class in our header right here, and this class is going to be on a lot of elements as well. Okay, so let's style that. Let's give that a width of the container with LG, and then a margin inline of auto. So margin on the horizontal axis is going to be auto. I want to have some styles for our buttons. Okay, so every button is going to have a btn class. They are going to be displayed inline block. They are going to have a width of fit content. They are going to have a padding of 0.5 rem for the top and bottom, and then 1 rem for the left and right. They are going to have a border radius of the radius 2, which is a variable up top, and the background of color white. which is FFF. Font weight of font weight of 500, making it a little bolder, and a cursor of pointer so that it looks clickable. Now let's give it a transition because we are going to have some hover effects, and it's going to have that variable transition. Okay, now the radius here is a variable up top, which is 0.6 rem. We had what else? The transition, which is all 300 milliseconds ease. Okay, and yeah, the variable for the container is going to be 86% on desktops. Perfect. All right, now let's have some more styles for the button. Now some buttons are going to have another class of primary, so these are going to be the primary button. They are going to have a background color of the primary color, and then the text color is going to be white. Some buttons are going to have another class of category, where are going to be the category buttons on each post. Okay, and they are going to have a background of color BG. They are going to have a text color of color primary. The font size is going to reduce to 0.75 rem, and the font weight is going to be 400. Right, now of course some more styles for the buttons. Some buttons are going to be very small, and for them we just have to decrease the font size to 0.8 rem, and then the padding is going to be 0.3 rem, and then 0.7 rem, top and bottom, and then left and right. Perfect. And then font weight is going to be 400 rem. Sorry, 400. All right, lastly, or last but not least, you are going to have a danger, which is going to be for the delete button. Okay, when we want to delete post, this is the style that we want on the button. Now it's going to have a background of color red, and then the text color is going to be color white. Perfect. And lastly, let's have a hover effect for these buttons. Okay, so on hover of any of these buttons, we want the background to be color gray 900, and the text color to be white, and that's it. Okay, that is it for our general styles for our buttons. Perfect. Now I think we can proceed to focus on our navbar. So in all, that's what we have. And now you can see that the navbar is a little bit centered, okay, and that is because of the container class. We gave it a rate of 84%, right? So that centers it, and also we give it a margin inline of auto, so it's horizontally centered. All right, so now we can focus on the header section and then style it, or the navbar. All right, now I'm going to target the nav and give it a rate of 100%. Remember, our navbar, of course, you could go ahead and actually name this or rename this to be navbar. Maybe if the header doesn't really make sense, right? But I'm just going to keep it like that. Now the nav tag is what wraps around everything in the navbar. Okay, so let's target that and give it a width of 100 viewport width, and that's also a unit. Very helpful when it comes to responsive design. Now the height is going to be 5 rem. We are going to display grid just because I want to place items to the center, and that's going to place the direct child, which is the div, that's a nav container, is going to be placed exactly in the center. Okay, perfect. Now let's give it a background of white with some transparency. Okay, so with an alpha of 0.5, we are going to position it fixed so that it's always visible on the page or on the website, and from the top is going to be 0, and from the left is going to be 0. Let's give it a z index of 1 so that it sits on top of everything on the page, and the border bottom of 4 pixels solid, and then the color BG. Perfect. So let's see what we have. We have another element that wraps around these different elements on the page, right? That's the nav container. Let's give it a backdrop filter of blur 20 pixels. I'm going to pull up the completed project so that we see how these work. Okay, so because of the configurations that I did for the completed projects, I have to restart this server. That's the current project on another port. Okay, so let's do npm start here, and that's going to run on port 3001. Yep, port 3000 is taken by the completed project. So yeah, so basically the styles that we had, that's the CSS. Yeah, they should be. Yeah, so these are the styles that we just wrote. That's how it should look like when the project is done. Okay, so it sits on top of everything on the page. You can see that we have that 4 pixel border at the bottom right here. Okay, and we have the z index set to 1. That means that it sits on top of everything on the page and all that. Okay, so we have the height, everything. So you can see it is somehow or somewhat transparent. Okay, it has some alpha to it so that we can see the elements behind it, and that blur also gives it this cool effect. Okay, which is really nice. Perfect. And since there isn't really any elements on the page, you can't really see the effects, right? That is why I had to bring this up to show you how it is going to look like. Okay, so we can proceed with the current project, and let's target the nav container. Okay, so that's the div, the direct child of the nav. So nav container should have a display of flex. So now the elements should be side by side, just like that. I'm going to justify content to be spaced between, align items to the center, and give it a height of 100% of the parent height. Perfect. And this is what we have. Okay, now there is going to be displayed none since we don't need it on desktops. So let me go ahead and do that right away. Okay, so now toggle btn display none. And if you have forgotten, there's this button right here where it's going to be the bigger icon that we can click on mobile version. Okay, so that we can show the nav elements. But on desktop, of course, we don't need it. That's why I've displayed it tonight. All right, we have a style for our logo, and now what we should take care of is the nav menu. Okay, this nav menu right here. So we give that a class of nav menu. That's a unadded list. Let's display that to be flex and align items to the center, and also give a gap of 3 rem between the elements. We save, and this is what we have. Perfect. Okay, now if I should come to the project, let's say if I should go to our layout, and then in here have some lorem ipsum text. Let's see what happens. Okay, that's not enough. 3000 should be good. Okay, so now you can see the effects a little bit better. Okay, you can see that we have that blur, we have that, you know, alpha, that transparency, we have that bottom 4 pixel border and all that. So everything is working perfectly. Nice. Can remove this. All right, so that is it for the header, at least for now. We can move on to the footer so that we can have that done as well. This footer section is going to be pretty simple. We just have a footer tag and another list of, you know, the categories, right? And let me give this a class of footer categories, and of course our LIs. Let's bring in our link from React Router DOM. Okay, the first one is going to go to, you know, these routes are specified here already, right? So it should take us to one category. Okay, so this is going to be the route. So footer, I'm going to paste this in. So you should go to posts or slash posts, categories, and then the category ID. Now this ID is going to be agriculture, and the caption is going to say agriculture, right? And we are going to have a lot of these, so I'm just going to paste it in. All right, so we have one for business, agriculture, and all that. I should remove this. Right, so these links are going to lead us to the different categories that people can write and assign their articles or posts to. Below that, that's below the on other list, we are going to have the div with a class of footer copyright. All right, and that's going to have the copyright message. Perfect. So this is what we need for the footer. Really, this is all we need. So we can go ahead and install this real quick. Let me copy the comment here. Let's check what we have. All right, so this is what we have from the React. Now let's get to the CSS part and install this real quick. Let's get the footer tag and give that a background of color gray 900, margin top of 6 rem, and then the pattern top of 6 rem as well. We save, and this is what we have. Not too fancy, I guess. Now let's get the footer categories, the unadded list. We are going to display flex, align items to the center, justify content to the center, and give a gap of 1.5 rem between them, and a margin top of 4 rem. Sorry, that should be margin bottom. Right, I'm going to give it a margin bottom. Perfect. Now let's proceed, and the links. So footer categories, and then the link is going to have a background of color gray 700. I'm going to have a color of white, pattern of 0.6 rem, 1.4 rem, border radius of the radius 2, and a transition of the variable transition. We save, and this is what we have. Perfect. We can make it more interesting by giving it some hover effect. So copy this, come down here. On hover, I want the background to be white and the text to be 900. Okay, perfect, nice. All right, now let's target the copyright. So footer copyright, and give it a text align of center, border top of 2 pixels, solid color gray 700. I'm going to give it a pattern of 1 rem, color of white, and the font weight of 300. We save, and this is what we have. Perfect. So our footer is also done. We are done with our footer. So now we can proceed to work on the main stuff, the posts and all that, right? But even before that, I want to have some styles for our error page, right? They should give us the error page, and I think it's not really showing because you know what? Yeah, we are going to start this error page. So let's go ahead and do that before we get to the more exciting stuff. For the error page, I'm just going to have a section. Remember, we had some styles for every section on the page, right? We gave them we gave every section a padding of 6 padding top, yeah, margin top rather of 6 rem. Yeah, so that should take effect immediately. We have a section here. All right, now I'm actually going to give this a class of error page, and let's have a class here, a div with a class of center, and we are going to give this a general style as well. Okay, this is a general class that we are going to style in the CSS, and let's have a link tag, okay, coming from React router DOM, where it's going to go to the home page. And I'm going to give this a class of btn and the primary class as well. So that should be this right here. Okay, so we have the btn class, and then we have another class of primary, so that should take effect on this. All right, so this is just going to say go back home. Let's have an h2 that says page not found, and that's all we need here. Okay, that's all we really need here. Right, so we save, we come back to our project, and this is what we have. Now we can go ahead and then have the, you know, the general styles, that's the center and all that. Okay, so below the buttons, I'm going to have some more styles here. So the center is going to have a text align of center. It's going to have a pattern top of 5 rem. Margin inline, come on, margin inline of center. Display block and a width of 100%. Now let's target the error page itself and the h2 inside of it. Give it a margin top of 3 rem. And error page, yeah. Okay, so this is a simple 404 page. Okay, so we can click it and it brings us back to our home page. Right, 404, click to go back. That's very simple. All right, you could of course make a prettier version of the 404 page, but we don't have time for that, so we can now proceed to actually work on the home page. All right, so now let's work on the posts. Okay, now in the home page, I'm going to render, I want to keep the home page very clean, so I'm going to have a component called posts. Okay, that's where everything is going to happen. So let's create that component, post.jsx, AFCE, perfect. And I have some dummy posts that we're going to use. So yeah, okay, so there's an array, of course, and each of these objects is a typical post. There's the typical structure of a post or an article. So we have an ID, a thumbnail, and as you can see, all of the thumbnails are images from the asset that I pasted earlier. Okay, so we have ID, thumbnail, category of the post, we have the title of the post, description, and then the author. Okay, so the author's ID. All right, so we have about 4 posts in all, and because we are going to create our own API, I want to have that structure down before we actually get there, right? So I'm going to have a state of this post array. All right, so let's have our state variable or state value, and then our state updating function. Okay, so set posts, which is going to be equal to your state, which is the array that we have here. Perfect. Now I'm going to have a section. So the posts is going to be a section with a class of posts, plural. We are going to take our posts array and then map through it. Now for each iteration, we are going to return another component called post item. All right, which we don't have yet, so let's go ahead and then create our post item.jsx RAFCE. And now if we show check posts is not defined, of course we should make sure we import posts. posts. Come on. And here too, we should make sure we have post item. So as you can see, we have them. Perfect. All right, so what we are going to do next is actually destructure all the properties that we need. We are going to destructure them right here and then pass them as props to this post item. All right, so first off, we need the ID, we need the thumbnail, we need the category, title, and then the description. We also need the author ID. And of course, since we are mapping through, we should give this a key, and that's going to be the ID. Let's give it a thumbnail of the thumbnail that we destructured. Let's give it a category of the category we destructured. Let's give it a title of the title we destructured. Let's give it a what? Description, author ID, and yeah, that's it. Okay, so we can go ahead and then work on this post item, and this is going to be the individual post. When we come to the finished project, this is the post item that I'm talking about. Okay, that's what we are going to work on. Now, one thing I didn't do is pass the ID as well. Okay, so we need the ID. I'm going to say post ID. That should be passed as prop as well to this post item. All right, perfect. Now, each post is going to be an article with a class of post singular. All right, now we are going to have a div with a class of post thumbnail. We're going to have the image, and the source is going to be, you know what, let's destructure everything that we passed as the prop, right? So let's get the post ID, let's get the category, the title, the description, the author ID, and what else? Yeah, that's it so far. Oh, the thumbnail, of course. This is going to be the thumbnail that we passed. And if you want, of course, the alt can be the title of the post, right? Next, we are going to have the content itself, you know, the title, the category of the post, the author, and all that. All right, so a sibling of the post thumbnail is going to be post content, and of course the title is going to be a link so that we can click on it to read more about the particular post. So let's bring in the link component from React Router DOM. Okay, and it did not auto import, so let me do that. Let's bring in link from React Router DOM, and this is going to go to posts and then the post ID. The title is going to be inside of an H3. Perfect. Next, we are going to have a paragraph of the description. And of course, we are going to shorten this, okay? If the description or the body is long. And one thing, I think it would make more sense to call this body, okay? The actual body of the post, right? But for some reason, I just called it description. Okay, so if we come to the finished project, once we click to read more, there's the actual body of the blog or of the post, not the description, but that's what I called it. So yeah, you can name it body if you want. I'm going to have a div with a class of post footer. Okay, and that is where I'm going to have my post author, which is going to be a component, and a link, okay, which is going to take us to the category of that post. So that's going to be /post categories, and then the category of that post. All right, so for now, let me just create the post author so that we don't get any errors. But there is a structure of a post. Okay, so let's come back to our project and then see what we have. Post author is not defined, of course. We should make sure that is imported. Import post author, and that's it. Okay, so everything is looking great except for the description, I think. Oh, okay, I shortened it in the array, right? Perfect. Okay, so if you come back, we should, it's not defined. Wait a minute, that should be here, right? Yeah, perfect. All right, so everything is looking great, as you can see. So what we need to do right now is style this, okay? And even before that, I think we should work on the post author before we actually get to the CSS part. Okay, so let's go to our post author. What we are going to do is make this a link. That's first and first, right? Make this a link. Okay, and that's going to go to /posts users, and then the ID of the author. And inside of this is where we are going to have the avatar of the user, and there's going to be a div with the class of post author avatar. We are going to have our image, and for now I'm going to just import an avatar. So avatar, and I can leave the alt for now. And next to this, we are going to have a div with a class of post author details, and this way we are going to have the timestamp and all that. Okay, so first off, let's have the name of the author. So let's say by Chiva, and in a small tag we are going to have our timestamp. And yeah, okay, I think that is all for the author or the post author. So we can go ahead and then actually style this whole thing. All right, so right down here, that's below the footer, let me actually copy this comment. So this is home, right? And we are styling the posts. Let's target the, for the actual posts, we have this, and then we have, wait a minute. You know what? I'm going to put this inside David class of container, okay, and another class of posts container, right? Before we actually map through. So the posts container, let's grab that and display grid. The grid template columns is going to be 3 1FR, and the gap is going to be 4. Right now, you know what? Let me put this side by side so that even if not side by side, I want you to see what is happening live, okay? Especially with the CSS. All right, now let's target each post. In the post item, we gave the article a class of posts. So let's get each one of them and then give them a background of white. Let's give them a padding of 1 rem, border radius of radius 4, padding bottom of 2 rem, transition, because we are going to have a hover effect, right? So let's give it a transition of the variable transition. And lastly, I want to change the cursor to default, which is this, right? All right, now let's go ahead and then have the hover effect. Let's give it a box shadow of 0 for the x-axis, 1.5 rem, for the y-axis 2 rem, for the blur, and an RGBA of black with some alpha, 10% alpha. Okay, so 0.1. We save this, and on hover, that's what we have. Let's grab the thumbnail. So post thumbnail. Let's give it a border radius of radius 3. Let's give it an overflow of heading and the height of 16 rem. I want it to have a fixed height. Let's proceed and grab the post content, which is a sibling of the post thumbnail. Let's give it a margin top. There's no room here. Okay, we don't have enough space here, so let's give it a margin top of 1.5 rem. Perfect. All right, now let's grab the title, which is the post content, and then the h3, and give it a margin of 1 rem for the top, 0 for the left and right, and then 0.6 for the bottom. Okay, so let's grab the post footer and display flex. We justify content to space between, align items to be flex end, and give it a margin top of 2 rem so that we have some space there. All right, now we can target our author. Okay, we give that a class of post author, which has the avatar, the name of the author, and then the time. Let's display flex, give it a gap of 1 rem, and align items to be flex style. Okay, post author, is that what I named it? Post author. All right, so let's actually give this a class of post author. Okay, and that should take effect, of course. And now let's target the avatar itself. So post author avatar. All right, the avatar is going to have a fixed width of 2.5 rem, and it's going to be the same for the height. So the aspect ratio is going to be 1/1 or 1:1. Border radius of the radius 2, which is a variable, and then an overflow of heading. And that's it, guys. Everything is looking amazing already. Now we should give these some classes. Okay, this button right here should have a class. It's a link. This link, yeah, should have a class, and we already styled it. If you could remember in the buttons, okay, when we were styling our buttons, our button classes, we had btn and then category class right here. This category class is what we have to put on all the links of the category. Okay, the category link. So let's give this a class of btn and another class of category. So we save this, come back, and that takes effect. Perfect. So it now looks just like the finished project right here. Okay, so this is looking exactly as the finished project. Of course, we should be able to click the link to go to the post detail, but even before that, why is it not working? Maybe we made a mistake with the routes, huh? Okay, so post the ID, post detail. Oh, okay, so post detail. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so on click of any of these links, it should take us to the post detail page. Okay, perfect. So with the description or the body, I want to shorten it. Okay, so in the card it should not exceed some length. Okay, and on click of this, then of course we can read all the text or the full body. All right, so back here in our post item, and even with the title too, I'm going to have a very simple logic to check that. Let's have a constant called short description, and let's check the length. If the length is more than 145, then we are going to shorten it. Okay, we are going to use the substring and shorten it. And when we shorten it, we have to give it the ... so that people know that that's not all the text in there, or there is more to the body. or the text, and therefore they should click to read more. Okay, so basically, if the text is more than 145 characters, then we are going to shorten it to that 145 and then add these 3 dots. Otherwise, all the description should show. And I'm going to duplicate this and do same for our title. So post title, that's what I'm going to call it. And that's going to check if the characters in the title is more than 30. If so, then we are going to shorten it to 30 characters. Otherwise, we show the full title. That makes sense, right? So we save this, and of course, in here we should be showing the short description, and for the title we should be showing the post title. So we save this, and this is what we have. Okay, if I should come back and then change, that's in here, right? If I should change this to, we should have that. Okay, so now since this is not more than 30 characters, we have the full title without the dots. Okay, so that's basically it. So now let's move on to work on the details. Okay, the post detail. All right, so I'm going to close all these, and yeah, of course, after we create our API, we will typically have to use, the parameters in the path to fetch the post from our API or from the database, so that we can actually show it here, right? But for now, we are just going to use some dummy text and the images that we have. Okay, all right, so let's proceed, and this is going to be inside of a section. So a section with a class of post detail. Let's have a div, the class of container, and post detail container. Now in here we are going to have post detail header, and that's going to have our author. Okay, so of course we have that component already, so that's the post author. Let's bring that in. That's imported. Good. And then let's bring in, and I'm going to have a div with a class of post detail buttons. Okay, if you are logged in, that's from the finished project. If you are logged in and you click your own posts, okay, so there's John Doe, and sadly John Doe doesn't have any posts. I'm going to log into an achiever real quick. Okay, yeah, perfect. So, and okay, so this is my post, right? If I click it, I should have these buttons, right? And that's what I'm doing here. So post detail buttons, these are going to be links. Okay, so a link that goes to, the first one is going to go to the edit page. So post the ID and then edit, and they should just say edit. I'm going to duplicate it. Let's give this a class of btn sm and then primary. Duplicate this. This is going to delete. Should just say delete, and this is going to be danger. We save, come back to our project, and this is what we have so far. Great. Let's have our thumbnail, which is going to be next to our post detail header. So we'll have, actually, let's first have our title, okay, which is going to be inside of an h1. Let's just say this is the post title, and then we'll have the thumbnail of the post. So let's have a div. We have our image. We should make sure that is imported. So import, let's say thumbnail from, I don't know what image that's going to be, but, and for the odds you could do, for now we are not getting anything from the database, so let's just leave it. Below the thumbnail we are going to have our body. Okay, and that's the full description. And for now, let me just do lorem 40 Alt Z to wrap. I'm going to do another paragraph with lorem 55, another paragraph, lorem 111, another paragraph, lorem 20. All right, so we save this, come back to our project, and this is what we have. Perfect. What's going on? Just outside of the div. Okay, it's actually too small. Okay, so let me have another paragraph. Lorem 200. Save. Yeah, that should be enough. Okay, so now let's go to the CSS. You know, some of the styles have taken effect already. You know, the buttons, the author, and all that. Okay, so there's not going to be too much. Let's style it real quick. So let's go to our CSS. I'm going to, of course, I need to copy this comment, come back down, and there's going to be the post detail or the single post page. All right, now let's grab the post detail itself. Post detail, that's the section. Give it a width of form width. Okay, which is I think 50%. It's a variable up top. Yeah, 50%. Okay. And I'm going to give it a background of color white. Margin inline of auto, and give it a padding of 2 rem for the top and bottom, and then 0 for the left and right. Great. That's what we have. Let's target the post detail header, which has the author and then the buttons. Okay, display flex, justify content to be space between, and give it a margin bottom of 1.5 rand. We save, and this is what we have. Perfect. Now let's target our buttons. You know, these buttons, they're inside the div with the class of post detail buttons. I'm going to display flex, give it a gap of 1 rem between them, and align items to the center. We save, and we have this. Pretty simple. Let's grab the thumbnail. So post detail thumbnail margin. I'm going to give it a margin of 1 rem for the top and bottom, 0 for the left and right, a height of fit content. Let me actually give it a maximum height, okay, of 30 rem, and an overflow of heading. I want to target the paragraphs, so post detail and then the paragraph. I want to give them a margin bottom of 0.7 rem. Okay, so that the paragraphs actually show well. And did I make any? Wait a minute. What's going on? Okay, there's no in the paragraph. So let's have a paragraph tag and then put it in it. We save, and now we have the space. Great. So that is all for this post detail page. Of course, it is not dynamic right now because we are not fetching anything from the database, but we are going to work on that. Now, on click of this category or any of the categories, we should be taken to the categories page, right, to fetch all the posts that belongs to that category. And on click of the you know, the author, we should be taken to a page that has all the posts of the author. All right, so it's going to be very similar to this page. So let's quickly go ahead and then work on that. But before that, I want to come back to our posts, and I'm going to cut this. Okay, that's the dummy posts array. I'm going to cut that and then put it inside of our source. I'm going to create data.js and then paste it in here. Okay, now I'm going to export this, come back to our posts, and then import it. So let's import dummy posts from data right here. Okay, so that we can use it on other pages as well. And also I want to have a message if we do not get any post. Okay, that's in case we come to the website and for some reason nobody has created any post. We should have, you know, a message there. Okay, so next to our container div, we are going to have a simple check and see if the post length is greater than 0. If so, then we should show the div. Okay, that's a container class. Otherwise, we should have an h2 that says no posts found. Okay, this should be a question mark, of course. All right, so we save this, come back to our project thumbnail. Yeah, of course, this should also go to the data.js. Okay, and in this case I'm going to remove the dot. Come on. All right, so we save, come back to our project, and everything should be working. Okay, so of course the array is not empty right now. We should have the message. Okay, and I'm actually going to give that a class. So let's give this a class of center. Remember we had a center class that we started in the CSS. Let me show you real quick. And that was around here, right here. Okay, so we had that center class that we started, and that is what is giving us that effect right here. Okay, perfect. So let's come back and then let's put in our dummy posts. Of course, everything should be working now. And as I said, from the finished project, we come back to the home page and then we click either the category or the author. You know, it's going to show us all the posts that belongs to that author, right? Or all the posts that belongs to that category. Okay, so that's what we are going to do next. Right, so first let's deal with the author posts. And this is going to be very similar to our posts here. So I'll just copy that, come back here and then paste it. Okay, I'm going to change this to author underscore posts and author posts. Oh, okay, so that's going to be author post container, right? Perfect. And of course we should have the array. Okay, so const and the state value, let me just call this posts as well, and then set posts as the state updating function. And also we should bring in use state and then pass in our dummy post. Okay, perfect. And that should be it, guys. That should be it. So if we come back to our project and then we click post item is not imported, good. We should make sure post item is brought in. Let's import post item, and now if we click on any of the authors, we are brought here. Okay, Interesting. Okay, you know what? I'm going to go back to CSS. Where is it? And for the post container, I'm going to have another class of author. It should be author post container. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, okay. And also, I'm going to do the same thing for our category posts. So that's going to be category posts container. You know what? Let me change this. So this should be author posts. All right, so we save and everything should be working. Perfect. Okay, so we can click on the author and be brought here. Okay, now everything looks the same because we are fetching from we are using the same data. But of course, once we start working with the database, the API, and creating our own posts, we are going to have different posts. Okay, right now let's move on, and I'm just going to copy everything here and then paste it inside of the category posts. And of course, I'm going to change this to category posts. And from the finished project, as I said, on click of the category, it should be taken to a page that has every post that belongs to that category. Okay, that's how it works, and that's what we are going to do right here. So we have the dummy post, everything, and of course I'm going to change this to, I could just have one class for all of them. So post container, right? I don't even have to have any class here because I don't think I had any styles for this particular class. So let me just say post container here as well. Okay, and for the author, I'm just going to do the same thing. Post container. All right, now back in the CSS, I can go ahead and then remove these two classes. The post container should take effect on both on the other two. Okay, so we click on the author, then we get this. We click on the category, and then we get the same thing. So the next thing I think we should move on to is going to be the register and the login pages. Okay, now in this case, as I said earlier, I assume that we are logged in. That's why we don't have a login link. We are going to just work on it. I'll enter the path manually. Okay, so let's go to register.jsx. For the register page, manually going to navigate to that route, and of course we don't have anything here. Great. All right, so of course we are going to have a section. Let me give that a class of register. I'm going to have a container class in here and an h2 that says sign up. Okay, below that I'm going to have a form and give it a class of form and another class of register underscore form. Come on. Okay, no action yet. In case we have an error or we enter an invalid input, we have a small message at the top. That was the error message, right? So let's have a paragraph and give that a class of form underscore error message. Okay, for now let's say this is an error message. Yeah, and below that we are going to have our first input. Let's give that a placeholder of full name. Let's give that a name of name as well. We are going to use state here, right? So user data, that's the state value. Set user data to be the state updating function. We are going to use state, of course. is going to be an object with a name, going to be an empty string, email, an empty string. You have password, an empty string, and then password 2. Or you can do confirm password if that's what you want, right? So password 2 is going to be confirm password. So the value for our full name is going to be user data dot name, right? And of course we should be able to type in the input so that we can update it. Okay, so on change we are going to call a function called change input handler, and that's going to be a function up here, and it's going to take in an event. We are going to use the state updating function, get the previous state, and return a new object. But of course we have to spread the previous state and then get what we are trying to update, right? In this case, it's going to use the name that we assign to the input, and the value is going to be the target value. Let me try this real quick before we continue with the other ones. Of course, everything should be working. Now I'm going to duplicate this a few times so that we have the other inputs as well. So let's just say email for the placeholder. The name is going to be email, and we should make sure the name that we give to the input matches the key or the property that we have in the state object, right? So of course it is going to be the email, and yeah, that's it. The next one is going to be password. So password, and actually the type is going to be password as well. There's going to be password, and lastly we are going to have the confirm password. So the type is going to be password, the placeholder is going to say confirm password, there's going to be password 2, and that's it. Okay, perfect. Lastly, let's have a button, a submit button. It's just going to say register. Right, let's give this a class of btn primary, and that's it. Okay, so we save this, come back, there's what we have. Not too bad, I guess. All right, so we can move on to style this, but before that I should have a very simple message outside of the form, and that's going to be inside of the small tag. I'm going to ask, already have an account? If so, then I'm going to use the link tag. Come on, link, which is going to take us to the sign in page, and that's the login, right? And it's going to say sign in. Right, so let's go to our CSS and start this real quick. I'm going to put this side by side so that you see what's happening. Register link. Oh, of course we should make sure that is brought in. So let's import link from React Rotterdam. Great. Okay, so let's start with the styling of this form, and let's first grab the general form class. We are going to display flex, but the flex direction is going to be column, and let's have a gap of 0.8 rem between the inputs. So we save this, what we have. Every input or select and text area element should have these styles. We are going to have 100% of their parent width, and give them a padding of 0.6 rem for the top and bottom, and then 1 rem for the left and right. Border radius, I'm going to do radius 1, and let's see, perfect. and I'm going to set the resize. From the finished project, let me show you something real quick. When we click on this, we have a text area here, right? And I don't want it to be resizable. Normally, when you have a text area element, it has some little thing here that you can click to um, resize by dragging. I don't want that, so I'm going to set resize to none. We are going to use the same elements on the create post page. So yeah, now let's have some styles for the form error message. Okay, and let's give that a background. Yeah, this right here. Let's see, that could be too much, but I'll just keep it. Color red is cool. I'm going to do color white for the text color. Font size is going to be 0.8 rem. I'm going to give it a padding of 0.6 for the top and bottom, 1 rem for the left and right. Border radius of radius 1, and I'm going to display block, and lastly give it a margin bottom of 1 rem. We save, and we have this. Not too bad, I guess. All right, now let's target this register form specifically, and you know what, I'm going to target the login class, which we don't have yet, and the create post class as well. All right, now I'm going to give them a width of the form width variable that we have up top, which is 50% of 50 viewport width, I think, right here. So 50%. Okay, so that gives us 50%, and let's bring it to the middle. Okay, so margin inline should be auto. I'm going to give it a height of, let's do a little calculation here. So 100 viewport height is the full screen or the full browser viewport, and then minus 12 RAM. And the reason why I'm subtracting 12 from the 100 viewport height is because I gave every section a margin top of 6 RAM, if you can remember that. And also I gave the footer a margin top of 6 RAM as well. So I just want it to fit the whole screen. That's what, and I hope that makes sense. I'm going to display its grid and then bring it to the middle of the page by saying place items to center, and we have it. Simple as that. Perfect. I'm going to target the h2, so register h2 login h2, and then create post h2 should have margin bottom of 2 rem. Okay, so we have some space here. Cool. What else? I'm going to target the small tag that has this message and then the sign in. I'm going to target that real quick. So register small and login small tag. Okay, we are going to display block and give it a margin top of 1.5 rem. Without a display block, this margin is not going to work. Do we have a problem? It's not working for some reason. Let's see. Okay, display block. Right, as I said, without displaying a block, it is not going to work. Now let's target the, I'm going to target the links. Okay, so the link inside of the small tag, I'm going to target that and give that a color, text color of color primary. Okay, so that it looks like a link. And I think that's all for now. That's all for form, register form. Of course, we have a problem here, so let's go back and correct this real quick. So password, confirm password, password 2. There should be password 2 as well. Okay, so now everything is working independently. Perfect. Okay, so let's come to the sign in page or the login page and work on that as well real quick. Therefore, I'm going to grab everything from the register and then paste it in here. I'm going to change this to login. That is going to be the same, but of course here we don't need confirm password, we don't need the name, we just need the email and the password, and they should be the same. They should be sign in, they should be log in. So login form, we don't need the name input, we don't need the confirm password, and this is going to say login. And here you're going to ask if you don't have an account. Okay, so don't have an account, sign up, right? And they should bring us to the register page. We can type, right? So we save this, come back, and we have it. Okay, we have our beautiful login page. So everything is working exactly as expected. All right, that's it, guys. I'm going to now proceed to work on the authors. Okay, the authors page right here. So let's move on to that real quick. For this page too, I have some data that I'm going to use as some dummy data for now. And right here, we are going to have a section with the class of authors. Let's have our container class and give it another class of authors container. Right now, we're going to have a state. So let's call this authors and set authors as the state updating function. Use state, of course, bring that in, and then pass in the authors data. Okay, now we are going to map through this, which is the array here. We are going to map through that. So authors.map. But before that, I have to check if we actually have any registered users. Okay, so I'm going to do some small check here. Check if the author's length or the length of the array is greater than 0. If so, then I'm going to show the container depth and everything in between and everything inside of it. Otherwise, I'm going to have an h2 that says no users, so authors found. All right, so for the mapping, of course, we can go ahead and then destructure everything that we need. But for now, for each iteration, we are going to return a link. So it's going to be a link to posts, users, and then the ID of the user. So in this case, we can go ahead and then destructure everything that we need. So we have the ID, the avatar, the name, and the posts. Okay, that's the number of posts they've created. Okay, so in this case, there's going to be the ID of the user. And I have to close this, and everything is going to be in between this. We have to give this a key, and that's going to be the ID. And we'll have the avatar of the author. So let's have that inside of a div. Give this a class of author avatar, and the image, of course, is going to be the avatar that we destructured avatar. For the auth, we can say image of and then the name of the author, and we are going to have a div called author info, which is where we are going to have the name of the author itself, so name, and a small tag, or let's actually do a paragraph tag that's going to have the number of posts that the author has posted. All right, so we come back to our project, and okay, so let's go to authors, and this is what we have. Perfect. So everything is looking amazing. You know what, let's actually give this a class. That's the link. Let's give that a class of author. Okay, so we save this and then go back to our CSS. Now, of course, if we should pass in an empty array here, we should get this message. Okay, and of course, I have to give it that center class so that it is centered. Perfect. So this is what we want. Okay, so let's get to the CSS and install this real quick. I'm going to copy the comment here, paste it, and that's going to be right. I'm going to put the side by side so that we see what's happening live. Let's grab the authors container and display that to be grid. The grid display grid. The grid template columns is going to be repeat 4 times 1FR. We save, and this is what we have. Perfect. And I clicked on 1. That is why it brought me to this page. Of course, they are all links. That's why we can just click them. So yeah, come on, make this bigger. I'm going to leave a gap of 3 rem between them. Perfect. Now let's get the author, which is the link, and I'm going to give that a background of color white. Give that a padding of 1 rem, border radius of radius 3. I'm going to display it flex and a gap of 1 rem. I'm going to give it a transition as well of the variable transition, since we are going to have a very cool hover effect on it. Okay, so let's quickly have the hover effect. The box shadow is going to be 0 on the x-axis, 1 rem for the y-axis, 1.5 rem for the blur, and the color is going to be black with 7% alpha. Yep, so we have it. Okay, we have that cool hover effect. Now I'm going to target the avatar. So author, did I give it that class? I don't think so. Yeah, okay, I did. So author avatar, right? Avatar. Let's give that a width of 5 rem. Aspect ratio of 1:1. So the height is going to be the same as the width. Border radius is going to be 50% to make it a circle. I'm going to give it a border of 0.3 rem solid color BG. And lastly, set the overflow to hidden. We save, and this is what we have. Perfect. Now lastly, I'm going to target the paragraph. So author info and the p tag, I'm going to say margin top of 1 rem. And that's all, guys. That's all for this page. Nice. It should look exactly the same as the finished project, right? Okay, now let's move on to the profile page. So this link, let me change it real quick. So I'm going to go to my header, and on click of that, okay, we should have an ID. That's the path that I set for that. Okay, so for the user profile right here, profile / something. Okay, that's why it took us to this 404 page because only the profile path does not exist, right? So it should be profile slash something. So when we come back and then click, we actually get taken to that route. Perfect. All right, so let's work on the user profile real quick, and then I think the last two are going to be the create posts. Okay, they're actually more to work on. So let's quickly work on the profile, the user profile. I'm going to close all these. User profile. In case you've forgotten, this is the page we are going to work on. This is the user profile. Okay, and it's pretty simple. Of course, I don't know if I tried this in the demo, but of course you can go ahead and then change your user profile. Okay, so now if I come back to the project, every post by an achiever should have the new profile picture, and that's how it works. So this is what we are going to create. Of course, there's a link to the dashboard where you can see all the posts and you can take some actions here as well, but we are going to take care of that later on. All right, so let's quickly work on this, which is the user profile right here. All right, so we are going to have a section with a class of profile and a container class and a profile container class as well. Let's have the link that goes to the dashboard. So that's going to my posts slash, for now let's just have something random there. Okay, and I'm actually going to give this a class of btn. Now a sibling to this is going to be profile details, and I'm going to have the avatar. Okay, that's the image that we have, this one. And also it's going to have a form. This is actually a form, right? It's going to have a form that is going to help us update the or change our profile picture. Okay, so let's have avatar wrapper, and that's first going to have the profile avatar or the current image. Okay, so let's, for now, of course, we are just going to use a dummy image from our images or assets folder. It doesn't really matter right now. Okay, next to this, we are going to have a form. So we are going to have a form, and I'm going to give that a class of avatar form, no action. And inside the form, I'm going to have an input, a file input, and the name is going to be avatar. I'm going to have a label next to that, where it's going to have avatar as the HTML4. It should match the ID that I have in the input. This is going to be an icon. The label is going to be an icon, and that icon is going to be this right here. So let's search that icon real quick. I think they should do it. Just copy this, come back to the project, paste, and use it here as a component. We save, and yeah, we have it. Good. Now for the inputs, I'm going to have an accept prop here, and that means this input should only accept PNG files, JPG files, and then JPEG files. Okay, that's the only files I need. And of course I should have on change prop. Let me first have a state value up top. Okay, so avatar, and then set avatar, and that's going to be equal to use state and an empty string. Now on change, I'm going to set avatar to the event target files and then get the very first image that we have in the array. Perfect, because of course people can select multiple images at once, but I want the very first one that they selected. Below the form, I'm going to have a button, and I'm going to give that a class of profile avatar btn. It is going to have, let me get this real quick from the icons here. It's going to have a check icon. Okay, so maybe this works. It's going to be perfect. I'm going to paste that. Paste it in here as a component. And for now, that's all we need. Okay, so if we come back to our project, yeah, that's all we need for now. Okay, now let's style this and then we'll come back to work with the form. Okay, and I don't think I showed you how this works in the demo, but basically you can update your data as a user. You can update your data right here, right? But we are going to style the top first and then we'll come back to this. Okay, let me actually have the name. So below the button or even outside of the avatar wrapper, I'm going to have an h1, and that's going to say the name of the current user. Let's say next achiever. We save this, and now let's move to the CSS. Guys, you know what? I'm just going to paste the CSS for this one. Okay, so you can just go ahead and then type from here, right? I don't want the CSS to take too much time, so there you go. You can just pause and then type all this out. It starts from here, right here, so you can just pause here and then you start typing. Okay, right. So if I should save this, this is what we get. Okay, this is exactly what we get. All right, perfect. So now we can go ahead and have the form, just like in the finished project. We can have the form here, and I think this is too big. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to remove this font size. I guess it's too big. Actually, let me just make it 1.5 RAM. All right, so yeah, that's better. That's still too big, so maybe 1.3. Yeah, this okay. All right, so that's the check button. If I should remove that, this also doesn't look bad. Let's see, that could be bigger, 1.3 as well. So let me just remove this one. Okay, so that they both have the same font size. Bring this back. Yeah, perfect. All right, so I started in such a way that this sits on top of the edit icon or the edit button. That's the label. Okay, that's how I styled it. Right, so on click of this, this gets replaced. Right, so if I show change this again, I click, it gets updated, and then this comes back so that in case I want to make another change, I can click it. That's how I started. All right, so let's work on the form. So let's get back here and then work on the form, which is going to be right here. All right, so we are going to have a form with a class of form and then another class of profile form. We're going to have a paragraph with a class of form error message that register in the login form. And let's just say this is an error message. Right, now we can have our inputs. The first one is going to, you know what, in the login form, I don't think I did this. I want to have autofocus on the first input. So in this case, that's going to be this. That's the email. Perfect. Here I'm going to have the full name, and we are going to have some state values up top. Here I can actually have this avatar in here and then pass it in right here. Where is it? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we could do this instead, but then I want to have some state values here as well. So we will have the name. So const name, set name. It's going to be go to use state and empty string. We will have some for email. That will be set email. Another one for current password, and this is going to be set current password. You will need a new password, so this is going to be set new password. And lastly, confirm new password, so this is going to be set confirm new password. All right, so we need that, and here the value is going to be the name, and on change we have a function here and set name to event target value. Perfect. I can duplicate this a few times. You have email. There is going to be email, so this is going to be set email, and that's it. Next we are going to have password. The placeholder is going to say current password. The value is going to be current password, and set current password. We will have another password field, so new password. That's going to be the placeholder. There's going to be new password as well, and then set new password. Lastly, we are going to have confirm password. So the type is going to be password. There's going to say confirm new password. Confirm new password is going to be the state value, and then set confirm new password. Let's have a button with the type of submit. Give it a class of btn and then primary, and it's going to say update my details, or let's just do update details. Okay, and that's it. That's all we need here. All right, so let's go ahead and then see what we have. Perfect, everything is working. Okay, because if you can remember, we have all the styles done already, right? If we check our register, you can see that we had some styles for every form. Okay, so everything is styled. It's looking exactly as expected. We can type and we have no problems here. Okay, perfect. Now let's move on to this page, which is the dashboard page. And in the finished project, that's how it looks right here. So let's move on to that real quick. So dashboard. I'm going to have a state value here. For this post, set posts. Use come on. Use state should be empty. Okay, for now at least. You know what? Let me actually bring in the dummy posts. So let's import dummy posts and then yeah, bring that in here. Perfect. All right, so in here let's have a section with a class of dashboard. Let's check if post length is greater than 0, or you can just do post length. Okay, if it is 0, then that means it's going to be false, so you can just do post length. if it is greater than 0, then that means it is going to be true. Therefore, we can go ahead and return a div with a class of container and another class of dashboard container. Otherwise, we are going to have an h2 with a class of center, and that's going to say you have no posts yet. Perfect. Now in here, that's in the div, we are going to map through our posts. Okay, so posts.map. I'm going to call each one post, and let's return an article tag, and I'm actually going to give this a key of post ID, and I'm going to give this a class name of dashboard post. Now from the finished project, we have this side of the post, right? And then this side, which is where the buttons are. Okay, so let's have dashboard post info and dashboard post actions. That's where the buttons are, right? And let's work on the info side, and that's where we are going to have our image or the thumbnail of the post. So dashboard post thumbnail, where it's going to have an image, in this case post avatar, right? And let's see, for the odds, let me just leave it. Okay, so we have that. Let's have the title of the post, where is going to be the post dot title. Great. Now for the actions, we're going to have a link first, a link to the detailed page of the post. So this is going to go to /post/post ID, so post.id. I'm going to give this a class of btn sm, and it's going to say view. So this will just send us to the detailed page of the post, right? This is going to go to the edit page, and it's going to have the primary class as well. It's going to the edit page, right? And this should delete the post, so delete, and should have danger class, and then delete. All right, so we save this, come back, let's see what we have. Perfect. All right, now, and the thumbnails are not showing for some reason. Should be thumbnail, right? All right, so I think that's all. We can just proceed to the CSS and install this. Let me grab the comment here. There's going to be dashboard. Let's grab the dashboard container and display flex. The flex direction is going to be column, and let's have a gap of 0.7 rem in between them. Okay, nothing has really changed. Now let's target the dashboard post itself. So come on, dashboard post, and let's display flex, align items to the center, justify content to a space between, a gap of 1 rem, background of color white, padding of 0.5 rem, 1.2 rem, and border radius of 0.5. Actually, I'm going to do border radius of radius 3. So we save this, and did I not give it that class? Let's see. Alright, so what we return should have a dashboard post. So what's happening? Oh, right. Dashboard post, yeah. So this is what we get. Okay, this is what we get. Now I'm going to move on and then grab the dashboard post info. That's the left side, right? I'm going to display that to be flex as well. Give a gap of 2 rem and a width of 100%. Okay, I'm going to align items to the center. Now let's grab the thumbnail. So dashboard post thumbnail, width of 4 rem because they are too big, and border radius of radius 1, and I'm going to set overflow to be hidden. All right, so we save and we have this. Okay, now let's take care of this side. That's the actions side. So dashboard post actions, we are going to display flex and leave a gap of 1 rem between the buttons. They should be displayed. All right, so we save and we have it. Okay, very simple, and that's it. So we click, it brings us to this page. Of course, the edit and the delete pages are not did I not create a delete page? Interesting. Let's see. Let's get back here and see if we created a delete post page. All right, so I'm going to create that real quick. I actually have it here. So what happened? Delete post. Okay, just duplicate this. This should be delete post. All right, delete. Wait a minute, delete post. Right. All right, so yeah, everything is working now. Okay, so we have the delete page, we have edit page, and then the post detail page. So now I think we can go ahead and then work on the create post and then the edit post pages as well. All right, so let's work on the create post page. All right, so let's go to the create post page, and here we are going to have a section, the class of create post. Let's have a container class and an h2 that will say create post. Below that we are going to have a paragraph with a class of form error message, just like we had earlier in the forms. And let's just say this is an error message. Yeah, I'll just leave it. And let's have our form. Now I'm going to give this a class of form as well, and another class of create post form. Now in the form, first we are going to have an input for the title of the post. So placeholder title, and the value is going to be title. Okay, so we are going to have some state values here. Set title is going to be equal to state, and yeah, we'll have description, category, and all that. Let me do that right now. Category, set category, and use state. Actually, by default, the category is going to be uncategorized. Okay, so if you don't specifically choose a category for your post, it's going to be uncategorized. All right, now we have description, which you could call body. Okay, so set description. Yeah, so it would make more sense to call this body, but for some reason I'll just call it description. Okay, so use state, there's going to be an empty string. Let's have our thumbnail. So const thumbnail, set thumbnail is going to be equal to use state, empty string as well. And that's it. Okay, at least for now. So here we are going to have title as the value, and on change we are going to have a function passing an event and set title to be the event target value. And I'm also going to make this auto focus. All right, now we are going to have a select, and I'm going to give this a name of category. The value is going to be, and on change we're going to have a function here as well, set category, and then target the value. For the options, we are just going to map through some array that I have, okay, which has all the categories that we need. All right, so I'm going to paste this. Now this is what I need, but as you can see, we have formats and then modules here as well, which we are going to use in a minute. Okay, on the React quill, that's going to give us that WYSIWYG editor. Okay, but for now, this is what we need. That's post categories, and that's what I'm going to map through. So post categories, the map, and I'm going to call each iteration cut, and then we have our option returned. So option, and of course we need a key. Come back to our project, and we have it. Okay, so we can see the different categories, and we can select them. Of course, we can type in the title as well. We are going to have the text area, but then let's have our thumbnail as well, which is going to be file on change, event set thumbnail, target.files, and then we get the first file, which is the 0 index. Now I'm going to have an accept prop here as well, and it's going to be PNG, JPG, and then JPEG. Lastly, let's have a button, a submit button, and this is going to say create. Let's give it a class of btn and then primary class. And to have the text area that we need for our body, let's install React Quill. Okay, so of course you can read more about React Quill, but we're not going to waste too much time on that. So let's quickly install that, and we are going to import that in our project. React Quill from, okay, we should import the CSS as well. React Quill / dist quill.snow.css. Okay, I should make sure that is imported as well. Right now, let's render the React Quill that we imported as a component here, and pass in the modules. Okay, the modules that we have and the formats that we have. Okay, so we have formats and the modules. We're going to pass them in as props. So modules is going to be the modules array that we have up top. The format is going to be the format that we have. Okay, the value is going to be the description state value, and on change we are going to just say set description. That's all you need. All right, so if I come back to all right, so we have a problem. This should be modules right here, and I'm actually going to add more of these. So for the headings, we need heading 3, 4, 5, and 6 as well. Okay, perfect. What else? Let's see. Let me rephrase this. We still don't have our React Quill. Oh yeah, this should be outside of the select, of course. Okay, so yeah, we have text area, and then we have the file picker right here. All right, so we come back to our project and we have it. Okay, so we can type anything we want and change it to heading 3, heading 4, whatever. You can type even more, change this to italic, bold, whatever you want. Okay, so you can go ahead, read more about React Quell, and it's pretty powerful when it comes to creating some dynamic body. Okay, now I want to add some custom style to this React Quell. Okay, this text area. So let's get back here. Let's go to our CSS, scroll up to where the form is, where we have the register and all of that right here. And I'm going to just paste this. Okay, so we target the React Quell editor, we give it an overflow, give it a background to be white, and then a height. Okay, now for the height, you can go ahead and then increase it. Let me just save and see. Still not working, right? So I'm just going to use the important flag here. Okay, at least for now, just so we can proceed. Later on, I'm going to figure out what's actually going on with the CSS. So that is all for our create post page. I think you can select any heading you want, right? Have underlines, italic, or make them bold and all that. That's all perfect. But now let's move on to the next, which is going to be I think that's going to be the edit page. Okay, which is going to be very similar to the create post page. So I'm just going to copy everything from here and move them to the edit post page. All right, so of course this should be edit post, and let's export edit post as well, and this is going to say edit post. Yeah, I'm just going to leave these classes. Okay, and this should be, let me check from the finished project real quick. So there's an SGO. Okay, so edit post, this is just going to say update. What else do we need to change? We really don't need to change anything else, right? Everything is going to be the same. So let's come back to our project and let's see from the edit post what we have, right? So we have everything set. Everything is exactly as it should be. Okay, so we are really done with everything for this app. Okay, at least for the design. Now if we should check how this is going to look on mobile, let me put this to the side. Yeah, this doesn't look good on mobile phone. Okay, so as you can see, the navbar isn't looking good, even the posts are not looking good, and the footer as well. So of course we should have some responsive design to make everything fit on different devices. Okay, so I'm going to close up all these files except for our CSS, and we are actually going to work in the header. That's the header component. We are going to work in this file as well. All right, but first we are going to work in the CSS. Great. So let me copy a comment, come down. There's going to be the media queries for mobile phones. So we will say a media screen and max width of 800 pixels, meaning any device with a width of less than 800 pixels should have these styles. First off, let's target our heading ones to have font size of 1.5 rem. We are just reducing the font size here. Every H2 should have a font size of 1.4 rem, and every H3 should have a font size of 1.2 rem. Right. Now, lastly, for the general styles, we are going to target our general container class and change the width to be the container width MD, which is medium. Okay, which is also a variable way up top right here, which is 92%. And you can see that we have some changes already. Right now, let's move on and then target our nav or our nav bar, and we are going to target the nav container class. I'm going to position that to be relative, and that's because I'm going to position the direct child, which is the nav menu. I'm going to position that absolute, and I want it to respect the container class. Okay, it's going to be relative to the container class. That's why I have to position this relative first. Right, so let's target the nav menu, give it a position of absolute, and it's going to be 5 from the top, and that's because our nav bar is 5 rem. Okay, that's why I want it to be exactly at the bottom of our nav bar. I'm going to give it a right of 0. I'm going to change the flex direction to be column. It is already displayed flex, right? So I'll just change the direction of the flex to column. And also let me give a gap of 0 rem. I'm going to remove the gap, and yeah, that's it for now. Let's move on to the nav items. So the nav menu and then the list items, give them a width of 100% and give them a box shadow of -2 rem for the x-axis, 4 rem for the y-axis, 4 rem for the blur, and an RGBA of 000 and then 0.26. right, so 26%. Now let's target the links. So nav menu, li, and then the links inside of them. Let's target them and give them a display of block background of color white, and give them a padding 0.85 for the top and bottom, and then 2.5 for the left and right. So we save, and that's what we have. Now of course we need the buttons. Okay, remember we had 2 buttons for closing and opening the nav menu. We need them now. So nav toggle btn, that's the class we gave it. We are going to display inline block. The background is going to be transparent. We're going to give them a font size of 1.5 rem. We save, and yeah, we have that. And lastly, I'm going to give them a cursor of pointer. Perfect. All right, now we are going to have some animation, and I have a dedicated video on how to create, different animations for your nav menus and so all your drop downs, right? So I'm just going to paste that animation and then make some few adjustments here, then we can proceed. Now we should be able to close and open this navbar, okay, using the icons that we have here. Right, so let's come to our header, and let's actually have a state here. Okay, so we are going to use this state to determine whether to close or show. We are going to call this is nav showing and set is nav showing as the state updating function. Use state, of course, and in here we are going to check whether we are on mobile phone before we can make this happen. Okay, so window.inner width, if the inner width is greater than 800 pixels, then it's going to be true. That's the default. Okay, so by default, if it is greater than 800 pixels, then of course we are on desktop and we want this navbar to show. Otherwise, then we are on mobile phone, and by default we should have it set to false. Okay, so down here where the icon is, we are going to use the state that we just created to determine which icon to show. Remember, we had two icons right here, so we are going to check whether the nav is showing, and then with that we can know which icon to show. So is nav showing? If so, then we are going to show this. Otherwise, we are going to show the FA bars. Okay, so we save, and this is what we have. There's going to be an arrow function, and of course here too we should check if you are on mobile phone. So if window.inner width is less than 800 pixels, then this should work. What we are trying to do should work. Okay, so with that we are going to set a snap showing to be false. Otherwise, we are on desktops, therefore we want to set it to true. And on this button I'm going to have an on-click prop, and on here I'm going to set a snap showing to be the opposite of the previous state. Okay, so let's get the opposite of a snap showing, and that's just what we need here. Okay, so if we save this and we start clicking, you can see that we change the icon. Okay, which is perfect. But of course, with this we should be able to show or hide the navbar, which is the most important thing. Okay, so right here we are going to check if it's nav showing. If so, then we should render the on other list. Okay, otherwise we should hide it. Okay, so we click, we hide it, we click, we show it, we click, we hide it, we click, we show it. And that's simply by putting an on-click prop here and setting the new state to opposite of the previous state to hide or show it. Perfect. So now, of course, if we click, so now we should be able to close this drop down or the nav menu whenever we click on any of these links. Okay, and even when we click on the logo, and this is the function to take care of that. Okay, so we are going to add on click prop on all the links in the nav menu. So on click we want to call the close nav handler. So on click close, come on, close nav handler, on click close nav handler, on click close nav handler, and lastly on the logo as well. So on click of the logo, close nav handler. Right, so we save, and React doesn't recognize close nav handler. Interesting. Let's see, close nav handler. Of course this should be on click and then close nav handler. Okay, so we save, come back to our project, and now when we click to go on any of the, all right, now I'm going to have an animation for the drop down. Okay, let's have some animation for the drop down. So let's go back to our CSS, and below the li I'm going to have my animation right here. So let's paste. So we have our keyframe for the animation, and this is the end state of the animation. Okay, we are going to have some styles for the starting state right here, our animation here. Now let's get the keyframe, which is drop down, which is this. The duration of the animation is going to be 500 milliseconds. The timing function is going to be is, and the fill mode is going to be 4 words. And this means the element should keep the end state of the animation. Okay, now let's have an opacity of 0 for the start and a transform rotate on the x-axis of 90 degrees. And lastly, the transform origin is going to be from the top. All right, so we save this, come back to our project, and now we have this. So this is our animation now. I'm getting some deprecation warnings regarding the event that I'm using, but for now I'm going to ignore it and then finish with the whole responsive design. Then we'll come back to what we can do, okay, to resolve this deprecation issue. All right, so let's style the rest of the home page. Let's grab the post container. Okay, so the post container, I'm going to change the grid templates columns to be 1FR. Perfect. And I'm going to reduce the gap. Okay, I'm going to reduce that to one rem. And I guess that's enough. We can move on to the footer. As you can see, we have some overflow. The footer categories, I'm going to change the flex direction to be column, and I think that should resolve everything here. Perfect. Right, and I think we are done with the home page. Let's get to the detailed page, and that's post detail. Let's grab the width. I'm going to set that to 100%. Let me save and see what I get. Perfect. I'm going to change the background to be transparent and give it a padding of 0. I'm going to remove the padding that we had on desktops. All right, that should be it. Now let me see. I'm going to have some styles for this page, and that should take effect for the register and the login page as well. Okay, so register, login, and then the create post. Let's give them a width of 100%, and I guess that should be it. Okay, so if I should go to the register page, everything should be fine. Even the post detail, I think we can do more with it. Okay, so post detail h1, I'm going to give it a margin top of 1 rem. I'm going to reduce the margin there. Let me go to the profile page, and that didn't really get those effects because we had a profile form class as well. I'm going to give that a margin top of 2.5 rem and a width of 100%. Perfect. All right, now let's move on to let's see. Yeah, this is done. Let's move on to the authors page. Authors, let me grab the container directly. Okay, the grid templates columns here is going to be 1FR. Perfect. Now let's reduce the gap to 1.2 rem. Yeah, that works. And I guess we can move on to the start the dashboard. Let me make some adjustments to the dashboard. So dashboard, I'm going to grab the posts. Dashboard posts. The flex direction is going to be column. Perfect. And I guess that's it. Let me grab the dashboard info. Dashboard post info. I'm going to leave a gap of 1.5 rem. And lastly, the dashboard post thumbnail. That's going to have a width of 5 rem. So we save this and everything is perfect now. Everything is exactly as expected, exactly as done in the finished project. You know what, I'm actually going to increase the h1, the size of the heading 1. I'm going to increase that to 1.7. Okay, and also for the h3, actually this should be 2. The h2 is going to be 1.5 or 1.6 even, and then this is going to be 1.35. So we save. Okay, so we are done with the React side of the project. Okay, we are done with the React. The next thing we have to do is to create the API and then make sure everything communicates back and forth with the API and our database.